in fact, that was the baseline, the manual monitoring of the winds, up until about 2 years ago. So going back to it is going back to something that we know very, very well.
Looks like we've got one back here, and I know we've got one on the phone as well. So,
Lee Roop with Huntsville Times, AL.com. Also for Dan, how old is that rocket out there? I've heard 8 years old. Is that right? And could its age be a factor in the valves?
It is definitely not 8 years old. The question is, how long has that rocket been out there? I believe it went on the stand November 1st. About 2 months, rather than try and be specific. But that rocket's been out on the stand, I believe, about 60 days now, maybe a little bit longer. It was built, completion of all 3 of the common booster cores in the upper stage were this year. So it's a very, very fresh hardware, and I don't believe that the rocket's age had any effect on today's operations.
okay, we're going to go to a question on the phone real quick while we get the microphone reset. I think we have Stan Ingold online.
Yes, Stan Ingold, Alabama Public Radio. My question is, will the ordeal today, does that impact your confidence at all in the Delta Heavies, or also any changes it could lead to with the Atlas rockets?
Well,
Go ahead.
It doesn't change our confidence in the rocket. It's a great rocket. We've worked with this team from the beginning. They've done an outstanding job. I think they made good choices today, and it was a complex day. So it doesn't change our confidence at all.
I would just like to, talk about today. You used a term that I would disagree with. Today was a very, very disciplined process. Our team has built an amazing record of mission success because our team knows our rocket very, very well. And the team was absolutely on their game, listening to everything the rocket was telling us, and it ultimately told us it wasn't ready to go today. And so we will we'll go make sure we've got a happy rocket. And as soon as we do that, we're going to get back to the pad and send Orion off to a very, very successful test flight. And we're looking forward to doing that.
Okay.
Hi, Kent Kramer for Universe Today and America Space. A question about both the batteries and the valves. How long will it take you to determine what the problem is? And if you did have to make any change-outs, what's the impact of that? A certain scrub? How long would it take?
I'll you guys, if chime in if you want to help, but no, just the way you had planned it, huh? Very good questions, but very hypothetical. It's always hard to know exactly how quickly we're going to be able to process the data and understand exactly what happened. I'll tell you, my gut feel tells me this afternoon we'll have a pretty darn good idea, and then we'll convene all of the right people from the different aspects of the team and get our go-forward plan potted in a very integrated sense. How long it would take to change things out depends completely on how long it would take, what it is we were changing out. And so it's a very, very difficult, question to answer. Again, I probably the thing I can give you some guidance with, when we've seen similar behavior in the past, we did not need to change out any hardware. We were able to come up with different operational procedures to mitigate that risk, and we have many of those options at our disposal. So I think the most likely path forward, and there's you never say never in this business, but the most likely path forward would be that we would employ some type of operational procedure in order to mitigate the risk of this happening again.
And about the battery? Well, there's a couple battery issues that our engineering teams are off looking at, and the real determination there is how many cycles can we do, and depending on when the count, like I say, that we go to internal power at launch minus 9 minutes in the normal flow. So we've done assessments of how long we stayed in that situation and how long it would take us to charge batteries back up. We also collect data during that time, so there's a data recorder that could get filled up, but we would have to to also do something to process. But we're working to make sure that we understand all those constraints right now. That's what the engineering teams are doing.
And there's a battery issue with on the rocket side too that we're understanding and working with. It has to do with instrumentation as well, and but none of the instrumentation plays into the control systems of the rocket. So they're what we would call required assets, not mandatory. So again, the team will work through that, and I think we'll be ready to give it another try here very soon.
Yes, Brent Houston with the Tacoma Voice. Since the valves have had a problem before, and now they have a problem that scrubbed today's launch, would that warrant some kind of redesign of the valve itself?
The valves have worked many times very, very well, but it's a great question that the team will be asking and looking at. Again, similar to the previous answer, I think there are probably procedural fixes that would be employed prior to us going to a valve redesign.
We had one in the middle here.
Thank you. Jane Wells with CNBC. A couple questions. Three questions. Did the valves close during the first two attempts? Is the cost of today's scrubbing being added beyond the $370 million, or is that all incorporated in that sort of, you're nodding yes, okay. Did the valves close? And third, there are some who have said the ship was a cruise ship. Is that true?
So let's see, the first one was, in the first two attempts, we did not get to send the command to close the valves. So there was no attempt, and therefore they were not active when the winds scrubbed those attempts. I think the second has been answered. What I heard on the net was a cargo ship. So that's the information I have. Again, that's the range's responsibility, and I probably should be careful about answering for them, but that's what I heard on the net.
Okay, I think don't see any more questions. Oh, one more from James Dean, and I think that'll be it for us.
James Dean, Florida Today, and I might regret asking what might seem like quite a silly question, but you got a real heavy rocket on the pad. I wondered if you wouldn't mind explaining, what is the threat that a stiff breeze poses to this 1.5 million pound rocket, and why is it that a little bit different direction tomorrow might make such a difference?
Actually, no problem at all. As the rocket lifts off, a wind can push the rocket. You look at the sail area of a heavy, and a wind from a certain direction, you get one profile this way and another profile this way, and so which side of that rocket the wind's blowing on, it's kind of either blowing on a knife or it's blowing on a garage door. Makes a big difference. The other part is, where is the rocket being blown to? As the rocket comes up, if there is a wind, it will drift. If it starts to drift towards the fixed umbilical tower, which is the structure that holds the swing arms, then obviously you can't drift as far in that direction as you can in other directions where there are no other structures in the area. So the reason the wind's important is it does push the rocket as you're coming up off the launch pad. And the reason the direction's important is because there are structures near the rocket that need to be there to accommodate the launch, and you don't want to get pushed into those.
Okay, I think we will wrap up there. We'll try again tomorrow at 7:05 a.m. Eastern Time again, but tomorrow our NASA TV coverage of the event will start at 6 a.m. Eastern Time. You can check up on the status of events in the meantime at nasa.gov/Orion to keep up with what exactly is going on. So I'll see you all there tomorrow, and then hopefully have a post-splashdown news conference after that. Thanks so much.